I find that there's a common trap of like setting unrealistic and vague goals. So I want to touch on that first and give our listeners some ways to set some practical goals. How to make this year different in your health and fitness. Such an important topic because I find there's so many people that make New Year's resolutions and they just do not stick to them. And it is one of those things where as the year progresses, as everything goes on, so many people fall off the bandwagon, hey?
Yes, agreed.
It's just such a wild and very prominent thing. So today we're actually going to be talking all about how to make 2025 your year, how to make 2025 different. And we're going to go through some practical tips and tricks to help you navigate this period and actually achieve your goals.
Love it.
Very, very excited. So we'll start off with the first couple of points that I have here, which is around why most people actually struggle to stick to their New Year's resolutions. With this, I find that there's a common trap of like setting unrealistic and vague goals. So I want to touch on that first and give our listeners some ways to set some practical goals.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I feel like one thing that people do is they'll create, like you said, they'll create a vague goal. So they'll say, this year I want to get back into the gym. And it's like, well, what does that really mean for you? Because if you're creating such a vague goal, it's really easy to fall off that bandwagon because you haven't actually created anything sustainable for yourself. You haven't planned out what that's actually going to look like for yourself. And then, of course, it's just easy to fall off track there.
Yeah, and I find as well timelines are a massive thing. People go, this year I want to lose 5 kilos, or this year I want to go into a building phase, or this year I want to focus on health. But it's such a broad goal, I would say, where you don't have a timeline set either. So that's one of the biggest things I come across is setting an actual timeline for the goals and making sure you're in a position to follow through on the thing you say you're going to do by creating a realistic one.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know whether people understand how to set realistic goals though.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be some sort of structure to the goal that you're creating. So definitely by writing something down or having it recorded somewhere, I think that's just like the first step to doing something, because otherwise you're going to create a vague goal for yourself. You might even change that goal as the weeks go by and you feel like it's unrealistic because it's a little bit too vague. So I think, having that written down, having a timeline for yourself, and of course ways to achieving that, it just gives you a little bit more orientation as to where you are in that goal.
Milestones too.
Yeah.
Milestones are big ones. I think so many people are focused on the point A to point B.
Yeah.
So when you are setting goals for yourself, making sure that you have little milestones along the way to know you're on the right track. I find this really helpful in any type of goals that I set because it allows for me to actually focus on what's the next micro step to getting to the end result, and not enough people are doing that. So I would almost sit down and map out what is the point A to point B, as you've said, and then from there move into, okay, what are the little milestones I need to hit along the way? What are the timelines around those? And working towards one thing at a time, knowing that it's going to accumulate to the big thing at the end of the year or the end of the goal, however long you've set for yourself, is going to allow you to feel like you're making progress, because otherwise you feel stagnant, like it's taking you too long to get to where you actually want to be.
Yeah, because I think like they just say like a specific end goal and there's no real steps along the way or little achievements that you can achieve. So it just feels like a really unattainable goal. Because I think I can't remember the specific statistics of this, but I know that in the first couple of weeks or however many days or weeks it is that you start a specific goal, then you get really invested in it, and then of course after that initial motivation dwindles down, it becomes a lot more of a routine that you have to stick to actually get to that goal. So by setting yourself little milestones, you're giving yourself little peaks of like motivation throughout the goal.
Yeah, and I think as well, remembering that things aren't always going to feel easy. When you just talk about motivation there, it is important to be able to understand how to, I guess, create motivation, or I would even go as far as to say momentum in what you're doing, but understanding that things aren't always going to feel easy either. And so many people act on the motivation, but then as you kind of said, it's peaks and troughs. When you hit the trough and it's feeling a little bit unmotivating, or it's not as inspiring, or you're just having a bad day, trying to view that as just a bad day, view it for what it is rather than an opportunity for you to fall off tracks, have to start over, or feel like you can't do it. But there's so much, I guess, unrealistic expectations around motivation too when it comes to goal setting. Yeah. How do you personally manage lack of motivation?
With myself?
Yeah.
Well, with myself, I feel like I remember you talked on this once. It was like whether you're intrinsically or extrinsically
Motivated. Yeah.
I feel like I'm very intrinsically motivated. Like, and that's something good to actually know is finding whether you are either that or somewhere in the middle. And I find that because I'm quite intrinsically motivated, that's the kind of touch points that I go off. So let's just say I'm not motivated to go to the gym at one point. I know that my motivation to go to the gym is to just create like a lifestyle and like train towards longevity. So I'll take myself back to that, and I'll say like, I'll tell myself, even if it means that I go to the gym but I don't train as hard as normal, that's completely fine. I'm not going to be hard on myself about that, and then that gets me out into the gym.
Yeah, like finding a way to just take that first step, moving your body, going because it feels good. Yeah, that's a really good point, is breaking it down. I think we can overwhelm ourselves if things are feeling a little bit challenging for the day, to think that you have to go and you have to give everything all you've got. But I always like to remind people that if you're working at 100% of the time, you're going to eventually burn out, and you need to have the ability to push and pull back when you need to. And if that means showing up, but showing up differently, slowing it down, that's also okay too.
Yeah.
But I think we all believe that we need to just be constantly showing up and doing more and being more. And it's just not the case.
No.
So that's a really, I guess, good starting point, is just identifying what's the specific goal, getting very clear on it, setting timelines and milestones along the way. Something else that I find really helpful is reflecting on the year prior. A lot of people don't do that.
I don't do that.
Don't you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I reflect on my year ahead and I plan ahead, but I guess I never look back.
Yeah, so you do really need to do this, because reflecting on previous years allows you to reflect on previous patterns and habits and understand what you want to take and move forward with, and what you don't want to move forward with. Like it's the things that you want to keep, the things that you want to remove. And a lot of the time, the reason we're not following through on things is because we have these very, very harshly ingrained patterns and habits, some of which we're not even aware of, that are affecting our ability to move forward. But if you don't take that time to reflect and understand what those things even are, how can you change them?
Yeah.
It's all perception, and actually becoming aware of yourself, your surroundings, and how you move through each and every day. So I find it very helpful to reflect on the year that has been, or reflect on the last goal that you set, or reflect on just the last 6 months of your life and decide, what are the things that I've loved? What are the things that I haven't loved? What are the strengths that I have, the weaknesses that I have, and the things that I'd like to change? And this is going to give you a sense of direction of what to move towards and what to move away from. So that's one thing that I definitely think is important. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is sustainability. So when it comes to sustainability, this is a very important point. You've got to set goals that are sustainable, that you can have and stick to throughout your entire life. You don't want to be creating habits and plans around goals that are unrealistic, unsustainable, and things that you're not able to continue for long periods of time.
Yeah. I think also recognizing that you're not always going to be in the same period of time. So the sustainability point, the fact that you're not always going to be able to sustain the same intensity of whatever you're doing forever, because you're not a robot. You have ups and downs, you have ebbs and flows in your life. So just recognizing that it's actually okay to sometimes peel back a little bit and be okay with that, sit with that, and know that you can always return to the same intensity of whatever you were doing before, and it'll come back when you need it to come back. It's
like a revolving door, right?
Yeah, it's like a revolving door.
100%. And also when it comes to sustainability as well, looking at if you have a goal that you want to reach, but it feels so far out of reach right now, what's the smallest step you can take to start to move forward? Because we get stuck in positions of that feels so far and so out of reach that we're not even going to try. But what if you broke it down, kind of like milestones that we were talking about? What if you broke it down into small attainable things that feel good for you right now? You know, for example, if you have a fat loss goal this year and you're deciding that I want to lose 20 kilos and that feels so far away and so hard, why can't we start with, okay, what's one habit that I don't want to continue to do that I can change that will slowly over time help me reach that goal? It might be, you know, pulling back on drinking alcohol as often as you are, or it could be adding some fruit into your diet instead of high calorie snacks. It could be that you need to move your body and you don't want to go to the gym yet, so going for a walk once or twice a week. Anything that's a small step in the right direction will ultimately lead to bigger steps later down the track. That's a really important point too. So let's talk about building a foundation for success. What are your biggest tips when it comes to how to build a foundation that becomes really ingrained and strong and can create a lifestyle for people long term?
I think definitely one thing is just, for starters, I think like writing down or recording somewhere what your goals are, what you're planning to achieve, even if it doesn't mean you have a concrete goal, just creating a specific idea of what kind of lifestyle you want to be living, and just thinking that would the person that has this lifestyle be doing the actions that I'm currently doing? And if not, then what actions can I be taking, even if they're small as they are, what actions can I be taking to achieve that specific goal? I think that's one of my tips that I've been implementing myself in the things that I want to be creating and doing with myself.
Yeah, I think another one for me is definitely continuing to try and improve your mindset. Mindset plays a massive role in our lives, in everything that we do in our lives, and the way that we show up as humans. And I think a lot of people misunderstand, or maybe just, I'd say probably misunderstand the importance of mindset. They don't realize how much it rules our world and how much of our mind is actually autonomous. And being able to peel back the layers slowly, get to understand yourself, how you think, that will allow for you to understand why you do the things you do, why you speak the way you speak, and how to make small changes. And this is, again, it's not just health and fitness related, but any goal that we ever set, being able to show up as that person is difficult if that's not who you are right now, but it's who you're wanting to become. The way to become the person you want to be is honestly through starting with mindset practices first and trying your best to show up as that person, because eventually that will become autonomous.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, and I think not enough people are focusing on mindset, or at least they don't understand the power of it.
Yeah.
So little things that you can do to help yourself start to show up as who you'd like to be so that you can start to achieve the goals you want to achieve is little, like honestly, just the small things, like making sure that you are doing some type of mindfulness practice, whether that's like reading, writing, journaling, meditation, if that's for you. I even find for myself, because I'm a big overthinker and my brain runs a million miles an hour. So for me, still practices like that are actually quite challenging for me. So I find even just a walk, a very slow walk in a park or by the beach with no music, so that I'm not getting, I guess, infiltrated by all of this sensory audio and light and whatever, and being able to just be with my thoughts, that's really helpful for me. That's a really good way to practice mindfulness, because you're starting to hear the things you're talking about to yourself, and you can hear the things that are coming up. I think daily movement, regardless of whether you have a goal in the fitness space or not, any type of daily movement will also help your nervous system. It helps you re-regulate your system and allows for you to think clearer. And that's also very good for mindset. And then the last thing that I would say is just making sure that your community or the people you're surrounding yourself with are helpful for where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
Because we get stuck in probably environments that don't serve us sometimes.
Yes, I think they're all such great tips. I feel like, the movement is so important. We always talk about dopamine and how it comes in from the movement that you do, but it actually plays such a big difference. You might even find that that's the little bit of motivation you need to push yourself a little bit further in whatever you're doing. So even just that small walk to start with, it could actually lead to something a little bit further later on down the track.
Oh, and it builds confidence, right?
Yeah, it builds confidence, boosts your mood, and it'll just help you to progress in all other areas of your life.
Yeah, I love that. I think this is a really good way for you guys to understand and start to remember that we do need to start small in order to reach any type of goal that we set. We cannot expect to just walk into tomorrow and be a completely different person, show up a different way, and all of a sudden not have any issues that we didn't previously have. We're always going to have things that we're working towards, but being able to understand that who you are right now, there's nothing wrong with, meet yourself where you're at, and then start to develop tiny little habits over time that across a year actually become really, really big things.
Agreed. Love it.